Hello to you all. Today I'm going to be going over some firearms that are in different price ranges. In front of you, I have two 1911s as well as two 2011s. And the prices between these vary significantly. So here I have a firearm. I'm gonna be rounding up a little bit, but about $1,000. You can get this from maybe like 700, 800. But in general, firearms 1911s that cost $1,000 or less. Here I have another one. This is Dan Wesson Discretion in 9mm. The prices on these have gone up, obviously given the times, but maybe $1,600 to $1,900 for something like this. And then I have an EDC X9L and then just a regular X9. And these come in a little bit under $3,000. So I'm gonna look over what do you actually get from spending, $800, $2,000, $3,000 for a handgun. What kind of craftsmanship, attention to detail do you get between the extra money you spend? So first, I'm gonna look at the magazines. Now I do not have a Kimber magazine. I don't remember if it came with an actual Kimber branded mag, but this is it. This is a custom 2 and 45 ACP, and this one is Metgar. And if you guys don't know, Metgar is the OEM for a vast majority, I'm not saying majority, but a lot of handgun manufacturers. As you can see, this one was made in Italy. It is not uncommon for them to make one, but Metgar, they make good magazines. Nothing really special about this. With the 2011s, and if you can see again, made in Italy. So I am confident that this is also a Metgar magazine made for just branded Wilson Combat. What I know with this fits the Walther PPQ SF as well. So just a Walther mag that works with the 2011s. And for the Dan Wesson, the Discretion, with this magazine, it is actually branded Dan Wesson. Made in the USA with this one though. So that's a nice little detail right there on the magazines for the DW and Wilson Combat mags, floor plates branded, and then it is again etched here on the magazine. All right, so let's look at the Kimber 1911 first. Start by looking at the magwell as well as the grips. On this, you do not have that much of a flare, if you can even call what is offered here a flare. So the purpose of this usually is to have, a little bit of a better angle you can come in at and still have a clean reload. You don't have to be just perfect, straight down to get a nice, clean, fast reload. With a magwell, you get a little bit of angle. It's still going to funnel down, slide in. With the other ones, you'll see you have a little bit more of a flare or actually a magwell included, but you don't get that with this handgun right here in particular. Grips, nothing special about them. They're functional with 1911s. They're easy to change out. With the Discretion, you can already see I did these. They don't look the best. They don't look the worst. Just 1911 grips, Kimber 1911 grips. I don't know if Kimber makes them themselves, but they're fine. Moving on up in price points with the Dan Wesson, you can see they include a metal magwell. So with this, you have a much bigger lip, which is going to make it easier. If you come in a little bit crooked during your reloads, the magazine should still funnel to where it needs to go properly. It's not blended the best. As you can see, they do angle the actual frame of the gun, but there's a little bit of a lip. I don't think it's gonna be enough to actually get caught right there with the actual magazine, but the inclusion of this itself is also something, obviously, you get on something that's a little bit more expensive. Now, I changed out the grips. As you can see, those are not the grips it came with. Those are rail scales. These are the grips that came with the Dan Wesson. They're made by VZ, and they are branded and etched on the back for Dan Wesson. I'm not gonna say these are like better, worth the price point over the Kimber grips, but just different. Same thing, functional, don't look the best, don't look the worst. 1911 grips. Wesson Combat, you cannot just switch out the grips with anything you want. 2011s, they are unique to the manufacturer. So with these, the grips, you have to get them from Wesson Combat or somebody who makes them specifically for Wesson Combat. But these are some very nice looking grips. And as you can see, with the X9 and X9L, the actual grip is the same length. So these can go in this and vice versa. And you can see they come in black and rose. And I will say these probably look better than what comes on the Kimber or the DW. I definitely like the pattern on these, and then also the texture more so than the other two. As far as the magwell, you can see that it does not have a magwell that's added on like the DW does. Here, they just include a much larger angled lip or funnel included inside of the actual handgun frame grip itself. The angle is not the most I've ever seen out of any handgun by any means, but it's there. This is more so, of a carry gun, something like this, or other handguns that are geared towards competition. They'll have a much more exaggerated magwell. At the back strap, and this has to be there for the functionality of a 1911. I'm not sure why this pattern right here is so common, but I would just say that's what it looks like. That's mostly what I've seen on other 1911s. As far as what you can tell between something that costs different, and you can see how dirty these are, how much I handle these. With the little, I am not sure what all the parts names are, but you can see here, you have something protruding where you don't on the Dan Wesson. And then take a look at the fitment of the grip safety. So again, this is about $800. You have a little movement back and forth right here. I'm not depressing it like that. No, this is side to side movement, if you can see that right there. But now let's see if you get something like that with a handgun that costs a little bit more. So you see that you have a little movement, but it's not as much. I'll look at this again. A lot more movement out of something that costs a little bit less. Still some here, but it's definitely not as exaggerated. You have more texturing on the front on the Dan Wesson, and when you come over to the Kimber, it's just smooth. So there's a little bit more machine time right here in the Dan Wesson versus just a smooth front on the Kimber. Now this really isn't something that, not everybody wants that, but some more grip, some more texture to firm up your grip, not necessarily a bad thing. And coming over to the Wesson Combats, there's no grip safety. They do have another line of more traditional 1911s that do have the grip safety. I would be interested to see what kind of play is on those. But you have a smooth traditional back strap like other handguns do. Nothing's needed back there. Instead of the texturing you see on the 1911s, you have nice diamond-like pattern that looks very nice. It doesn't give you much grip, but it definitely does look nice. And that same texture, that same machine work is on the front of the grip as well. And on the X9L, it is the same. All right, so I know everybody wants to know what the trigger is like between them. I'm gonna get to that last actually, but first I wanna do two things while the guns are fully assembled. I'll look at the slide fitment in the back. We'll start with the Kimber again. So there's a few things you can see how small the space is between these firearms. So here with the Kimber, this vertical section right here, it doesn't look bad by itself, but once you see how close the other firearms are, you can see that becomes a little bit more. there's two things back here that I want to focus on. The other one is actually the firing pin. Right here, it is just cut off. It's a sharp edge around the diameter of that firing pin. Like if you just took a cylinder and chopped off the top half. Just remember that, and I'll bring up what actually comes up on the other handguns. Now, with the Wesson, if you guys can see, if this is going to focus, the fitment around this part between the slide and the frame is a little bit better, barely. And I'll do something else to really show. So if you guys can tell, look around this area right here when I bring up the Kimber. See where the silver or the stainless slide and the stainless frame and slide meet. The matchup is a little bit tighter on the Wesson. And also, if you want to look here, now I'm not exactly sure what this part is called. It doesn't match up right here. It's not as clean looking on the slide. It protrudes. Like if I run my finger across this, I can tell that there's something else there. With the Wesson, it's much more flush. I can still rub my finger and tell that it's there, but it's not protruding as much on the Kimber compared to the Kimber. And if you look at the firing pin, it has I would say it's almost close to being cut off as well. No nice clean cut. This will focus on the firing pin as well. Now, if I bring something up like this, now this is a different story right here. One thing I noticed on the firing pin, it's beveled. Something so small like that, it's actually rounded on the firing pin. That's something that's very small, you probably won't notice, but when you start spending money like this, every single little thing is going to get some attention to it. And the fitment back here also is really tight. And we're looking the same on the XL. And if you guys want to compare the two, the firing pin versus the firing pin on the Kimber, just a flat, straight cut-off cylinder. And then you have something that's beveled. You have a little bit more gap on the Kimber, nothing on the Wilson Combat. One thing that also really does show how nice the fitment can be on a handgun is how easy it is to rack the slide. So something like on the Kimber, safety's off, hammer's down, it takes a good amount of force to try to get this slide back. I'm not going to get a good grip on it. I'm just going to use 3 fingers to hold it, 3 fingers to try to pull it back. It is difficult. I do have to get a good grip, and usually I'll probably definitely go over the top or something like that. But if I just want to use 3 fingers or something like that, it's difficult to fight that slide and whatever friction is between the slide and the frame. Same on the Wesson. Hammer's down, safety's off. I'm gonna try to use 3 fingers here. I'm gonna use the smooth part of the slide here. I get a little bit more rearward movement, but still with this. Now, if I get a nice tight grip, it's a little bit easier. It is easier than the Kimber, but it does not move as easy. Now, if I get something like the Wilson Combat, and I just have a poor grip, something like that, I want to use some fingers. Look how easy that is. This slide fitment on this frame, man, it is nice. Now, if I just have it in my hand regularly, hammer down, just 2 fingers. This slide, like, I promise you, if I had my eyes closed and you handed me one of these and I was just going to actuate the slides, I would be able to tell which one was which one was a Wilson Combat. That is just real smooth right there. Very easy. Man, just take 2 fingers, hammer down, and actuate it. With the Kimber, hammer down, there is some resistance. Like, you're probably able to check if the safety is on kind of resistance. Jeez. But yeah, of course I definitely go like this with the Kimber, but just that really shows, you know, I don't know exactly how they do it, but this is definitely smooth. Same thing with the smaller one. Nice grip, hammer down, just 2 fingers. So nice. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the frame and what you get once you start spending a little bit more money. This is the Kimber Custom 2 frame. And as you can see on this frame, it's just straight cuts, no contouring or anything. You have a sharp point here at the end. I mean, it's sharp. Like, if with enough force, you could definitely puncture somebody's skin with this. But you can see no contouring on this, and I'll show you side by side with something else. This is the DW. Now with this too, just straight edge when they finish cutting off this piece of steel right here for this handgun. But here at the front, you do get some contouring. A little bit more machine time right there. Now, take a look at the Wilson Combat, and hopefully this comes across camera. You do not have a straight edge. First, you have a shelf right here, and then they cut it at an angle, and then it finally wraps around. So let me see if we can get a good angle of that. How much more smoother that is. Flat up here, cut at an angle, and then comes around. Those are small little details you get. You get something that's nice and smooth. You do not have a sharp point that's blunt. That's what you get. So if you want to look at it side by side, you get something that's sharp on the Kimber, just straight edge. And on the Wilson, you get something that has bevels, angles, contoured. Once you get like the cheapest, well, not the cheapest, on the cheaper end of 1911s, I believe this is the extractor right here. This is what the case hits against, bumps it out the handgun. It's just straight here on the Kimber. No angles, no contouring, just a straight piece of metal, one cut across, finished up, that's it. On the Dan Wesson, however, you do get a little bit something else extra here. If we can able to focus, it is actually contoured. So you have, there we go. If you're able to tell, it is actually on an angle right there. So you have the flat top angle, then it goes down at a 90-degree. And of course, when you get to something like this as well, you can see that too is contoured. It's just not a straight flat piece, flat top piece of metal like you have on the Kimber. Coming up to the slides, you can see how the barrel protrudes a little. Not that it's a bad thing, but if I take the Wilson, just absolutely flush fitment around at the barrel bushing, the barrel itself, a beautiful crown, flat all the way down, even with this plunger right here. With this, I mean, could they have done it? Possibly. But you know, you don't have to be exact. Let the barrel come out a little bit. Not as nice of a crown, but you know, still works. But attention to detail, it's the small things. Now, if the Dan Wesson has a threaded barrel, so that's not really a fair comparison. It protrudes for a reason, but the front of it's still nice and dirty from suppressor use. And one thing that's obviously a lot nicer that you pay a little bit more. Man, this is a good looking barrel. This is from the smaller one, the X9. Obviously something like this, much thicker profile, is something you're gonna pay a little bit more heavy for. Pay more for. And then like the fitment of this barrel and the slide, as you could still see, just racking a slide so easily around this. It is just precise machining when they were making this handgun. All right, we're going to take a look at the slides also for the Kimber. I actually do like the slide. Had they have it done, shiner finish on the side, top is a little matte and smooth. A pretty basic slide. You have just 3 dots, nothing special about that. However, like on the frame, you just have a straight cut slide. No angles, no beveling, no shaping, just straight flat, sharp 90-degree angles on the slide. You also have some serrations, no adjustable sights, anything like that. With the Wesson, with their slide, with the sights first, you have some tritium front, back, single dot in the back. However, suppressor height, that's different. So of course with tritium, that's going to boost the price up a little bit. They do have some more machine work on the slide, but these here, they're a little bit sharp. I'll go over that a little bit more in the detail, what I think about that. Yes, also have some, I forgot what these are called, but just help out with the glare in case you don't have a whole bunch of flashback, bounce back from the sun, serrations in the back. And on the, there we go, it is also flat, but it looks a little bit nicer, however, than the Kimber, in my opinion. Now, I have had the Kimber longest, so it's showing a lot more signs of wear. But still not as, you do have a slight, so yeah, there is a slight angle. I don't think my camera's gonna be able to pick up on that on the Wesson instead of just a flat cut on the Kimber. Now come back to the Wilson Combat. On their slide, they do have an angle cut here. So the slide comes down, they got it at an angle, and then it rounds off at the bottom. On the Wilson Combat slide, very nice slide. They have the same diamond patterning that is on the front and back of the grip. You have these striations on the top, and I really like the logo on top. And it is on the larger one too. So with these, you also do get combat, I don't know if they're combat, but adjustable rear sights and a fiber optic front sight. And the rear is blacked out with a U notch on both of them. And then also you can see on the back, they have more striations to combat glare. And I believe the the Kimber, on the sights they do, but not on the back. And on the back of the Wesson, they do not, but the back of the sight does have striations to combat glare as well. So I'm sure there's some other things that are not just obviously evident in this that brings up the price over the Wilson, over something like the Kimber. I know something like metal injection parts are something that's cheaper but not as rugged. I'm not sure how to tell the difference between one or what the other more expensive option is. I know like these have full-length guide rods, these do not. These have flat wire springs, these do not. I'm sure there's other things in there as well. But some things on them that I really don't feel like one does better than the other are the safeties. Those are pretty easy to do with 1911s. All of them are tactile. None of them are a little bit sloppy or loose or anything like that. Now the triggers. That's one of the most important things when it comes to 1911s. With the Kimber, have a little take up there, a little creep right there, and then a break. And I already know it's heavier from experience versus the Wesson Combat, and the reset is not as nice. Yeah, some there, not reset yet. And there you go, finally reset. With the Dan Wesson, lighter, and I believe that is a shorter trigger pull as well, and a shorter reset. Let me do that again. The Dan Wesson does, oof. Yeah, the Dan Wesson does have a nice trigger. So there's a take up, it is lighter. You don't have like a little stage right there. You have a little bit more creep with the Kimber. It's right there. Let's see if I can catch that reset. Short reset. I will say I like the shape of the Dan Wesson trigger versus other ones. Here we go with that. You have more take up, not really an issue though. It's right there. You don't have like a little creep afterwards once you hit that wall like the Kimber. Very short reset. Pull it again. Get that take up there. You're right on that wall. And it's ready to fire once you hit that wall. And just for fun, pretty much the same thing, but let's do it with the big one. The take up, right there, ready to fire. And the reset, right there. So I can definitely say the trigger between the DW and the Wesson Combats is better than the Kimber. Now, how do they shoot? I'm going to take this out of the equation right now. I don't shoot a lot of 45. I don't like 45 compared to 9mm. Yeah, so it shoots. I don't have many issues with it. Let's say this versus this, about 2,000 versus about 3,000. These are hands down softer shooting than the Dan Wesson. On top of that, this thing is heavy. This is all steel frame, steel slide. It's like 44 ounces. These steel slide, I believe, aluminum frame. These are noticeably lighter. I do not know off the top of my head if I had to take a guess, somewhere mid-30s. But throwing weight at 9mm versus precision, right here. Very soft shooting, noticeably more. Now on top of that, you get 15, 18 rounds of 9mm. This thing is fast. Very quick, very fast, light recoiling. This is the softest 9mm I have ever shot. More so than CZs, more so than something heavy like this, more so than the heavy Q5 SF. Very soft shooting. And you don't have to throw weight at the problem. Just have a very nice design and machine firearm. And I don't know how they did it. This thing is very, very soft. Even something like this, if you guys don't know, if you have a little shorter barrel, sometimes the firearm can tend to be a little bit snappy, but they got a nice thick profile barrel on that. Soft shooting as well. To answer probably a question, I'm not gonna say is it worth it, but you can definitely tell in your hand you have something that costs a little bit more. If you've handled a lot of other firearms, felt them, shot them, you can tell there is something noticeable about this once you've handled some other stuff. The Dan Wesson, it's heavy, definitely looks nice, has a little bit of features, design that sets it a little bit apart from other ones. But you know, heavy, not even the softest shooting. Like I have some that are cheaper than this, polymer frames. I'm not gonna say CZP10, but maybe. Still softer, even though it's heavy and it's only 9mm. I'm not here to say, you know, is this worth it over that, or is this worth it over that? Is this just as good as those? Not gonna discuss that. I'm just here to show, you know, what are some little details here and there you get this versus that. Appreciate you guys watching. I still got to do a review on these two firearms right here. Probably won't do anything with the Kimber, but just stay tuned for more videos.